Well, good evening, everyone. Welcome to the Up County. We'll get started. I would like to open tonight's gathering by extending a warm welcome to each and every one of you. Thank you for spending your Monday evening here with us at the Black Rock Center for the Arts as we engage in the County Executive's Budget Forum series for fiscal year 26 here in the Up County. Thank you specifically to BlackRock, their amazing staff, and CEO Katie Hecklinger for once again hosting us in this amazing, vibrant, and community-centered space for tonight's community conversation. Thank you to OMB for leading this effort, TEBS for providing all of the technical support, MCP for keeping us safe as always, and all of the county executive staff that I saw around here who put in countless hours of service making Montgomery County the great place that it is today. You're all invaluable to our collective success. My name is Ruben Rosario. I am the Up County Regional Services Director. In the time that I've been here, I've learned that sometimes that statement alone leaves people asking two questions. One, what exactly is the Up County? And two, what does it mean to be a Regional Services Director? So I'm going to very quickly tell you what I know about those two things. The Up County is an area that consists of 55% of the county's total land area and 33% of the county's overall population. It stretches north and south from Shady Grove Road to the Frederick Line and east and west from Laytonsville to the Potomac River. It's an extremely diverse community in terms of age, race, ethnicity, languages spoken, beliefs, income levels, and interests, and comprised of at least 18 distinct jurisdictions or communities who all have their own magnificent histories, identities, and challenges. Just to name a few of the places that we represent: Germantown, Gaithersburg, Montgomery Village, North Potomac, Poolesville, Damascus, Clarksburg, Laytonsville, and several other amazing communities. So the second part was, what does it mean to say I'm a Regional Services Director? That means that it's my duty, honor, and privilege to work for the community as an extension of the County Executive's office in the upper region of Montgomery County by facilitating the delivery of all county services, which are accounted for in the budget, which we'll talk about, to the public. And what types of services are those? That question is best answered by sharing with you some of the types of calls we take at our office on a daily basis. On any given day, people call to discuss public safety issues, local housing challenges, public health questions and requests, mental health services, school issues and student support, traffic improvements, and all sorts of quality of life issues that we're happy to field. What's critical to know about our office, meaning myself and also other regional directors around the county, is that we don't handle any of those aforementioned issues on our own. Instead, we work alongside County Council, the amazing executive leadership team that currently exists within Montgomery County, and most importantly, you, the community, who give us direction in terms of our goals and set the parameters for what success is and what success is not. With respect to County Council, we all know we have a great, diverse, committed, and excellent collection of leaders doing all that they can to enhance the lives of Montgomery County residents. But here in the Up County, we're primarily supported by council members serving the districts 1, 3, and 7. Those individuals are Councilmember Marilyn Balcom, who's here today. 2. District 2. Did I say 3? I said 1? It says 2 here, sorry. Councilmember Sidney Katz and Councilmember Dawn Lutke. Also our at-large members do a tremendous job up here. Gabe Albernauz, Lorianne Sales, Will Jawando, and Evan Glass. They support us in all that we try to do up here in the Up County as well. Tonight, every one of the communities that I mentioned, all 18 and then some, has the great opportunity to recognize that the budget is more than just numbers on a page, or many pages for that matter. It's a reflection of our shared values and priorities. Tonight, the county executive's election to hold a budget forum in the Up County represents for us a vital opportunity for all of us to not only receive valuable insight into the budget process, revenues, and key areas of focus from our leader, but also for us to share our thoughts, ideas, and concerns about how we allocate resources for the upcoming fiscal year. Make no mistake, it's not just an invitation. Tonight and throughout this process, your input will be seen and valued as essential in shaping a budget that truly meets the needs of our great community. A couple of quick things to share with you. First, please note that we have provided you with a survey containing about, I think, 7 questions through which we'd like to obtain some of your input about how tonight went, why you're here, some more feedback. You'll see the questions on there. This is the wrong card. It's actually this card right here, hiding underneath of it. County Executive's contact card has a QR code at the bottom left corner, I guess, of it. You can use that to answer the questions. You don't have to do that right this second, but I wanted to point that out to you. You also have a glossary sheet containing terms for your reference, things you might hear tonight that would be helpful to refer to. And lastly, my information is available on a contact card as well. I believe there's a whole stack in the back. Has my contact information, the location of our office, where you can find and subscribe to our newsletter to get more involved with things that are happening in the community. One thing I wanted to mention and point out is we have an amazing Citizens Advisory Board up here in the Up County. It's commonly referred to as UCAB. That is a 20-person board that's appointed by the county executive, confirmed by county council, and has as its mission to advise both on the needs and priorities of the community in pivotal areas such as public safety, transportation, health and human services, and the environment. That board meets once a month as a full team and hosts 2 subcommittee meetings, both land use and quality of life. And every member on that board is a volunteer, which means that they don't get paid, but each one of them works extremely hard to address the needs of the community and provide feedback that informs us on your priorities. I believe there are a couple members here tonight. Unfortunately, our chair, Crystal Bivens, was out of town and was unable to make it tonight. Otherwise, she would share a few words about what they do. But since she's not here, I am not going to delay any further. I'm going to say thank you so much for being here tonight, and I'm going to get out of the way and pass the microphone to the county executive. Thank you very much.
So, good evening. And the start of this budget presentation, it's my 5th one, and I'm doing 11 of these. And it's our way of making sure we get as much information out to the public about what we're doing with the budget and what goes into making a budget. When I got elected, the previous executive did these things after the budget was done. And we came in and we decided we'd flip the order. We would go back and listen to people first, and then they'd work on the budget. That's why you see members of my staff here, because they're looking to see, what are people talking about? What are the big issues in the community? Because we have to make decisions about the budget. Nobody yet is writing it, but within, a few weeks or a month, people will be sitting down and writing the budget. There are a couple major events that occur. We're looking for revenue estimates from the state, because that'll give us a clue as to how much money we're going to have. We've been working with the school system to try to get them to coordinate their budget with our budget. We usually get their numbers after we've already submitted our budget, which makes it very hard to balance things, particularly when your labor negotiations aren't done until after we're ready to submit our budget. So they're working with us to try to be more coordinated. I'm very happy with what I've seen so far from the school leadership, and it seems like they're moving in the right direction. So it's at least one thing I think has been really positive. So go to the next thing. So I'm going to start by talking about 2 budgets in one county. So we do an operating budget and we do a capital budget. And the easiest way to distinguish is operating budget is services. So anything you see a county employee do is out of the operating budget. Any police work, anybody in the county right-of-way, maintaining a right-of-way, everybody who works in the library, rec center, all those folks are on the service side. And on the facility side, this is the capital budget. These are all the things we pay for in Montgomery County. So this was once in a capital budget. When we do a road up here, you make a major improvement, that will wind up coming out of a capital budget. So all the things that are physical, that's the capital budget. And we do the capital budget in 2 phases. We do a thorough budget one year, and I think this year is our easy capital budget. We just use this year to make changes to what we did last year, but we don't do a full review of everything. But the operating budget gets a full review every year, and it's the largest part of what we do. And I'm going to show you some slides to kind of show you where money comes from, where money goes, and we'll talk about what our challenges are. So the first thing, this is the approved revenues for the budget we're in right now. FY25 means it ends in June 30th of 25. And we have $7 billion in revenues and a little bit more. Property tax, that thing makes up, it should be brighter. It's brighter over there than it is here. Property tax makes up $2,285 million. Income tax is $2,051 million. Intergovernmental transfers is money we get from the state for things that we're doing, like the school system. So we get a lot of money for the school system that comes from them. We get money for health and human services. This is the only county, I think, in the state where health and human services is part of the county government, not part of the state government. So health and human services is very different in Montgomery County than it is in other parts of the state. Charges for services bring in about $481 million. Other taxes, various small taxes, bring in about $327 million. Fees and miscellaneous, this is where, or fines and miscellaneous is $246 million. That's where your traffic tickets go for speeding through red lights or tripping on the speed monitors. And then transfer and recordation taxes is $162 million. It's probably, of all these things, the most volatile. It's the least consistent from year to year in a bad year because it depends on the housing market. And so every time a house or a building is sold, there's a transfer tax for transferring the property, and there's a recordation tax for recording the deed. And for the last couple of years, we've been down about $75 million in this. And so last year, our budget would have been a little bit different had we had a healthy transfer and recordation tax. I'm not shy. I blame it on Fed policy. They kept interest rates way too high for way too long. They killed the housing market. That's bad if you're trying to find housing, and it was bad for us in terms of revenues because we don't have any easy ways to make this money up. We don't have a lot of flexibility. We're capped on our income tax at 3.2% right now, and property taxes you can't change on the fly during the middle of the year. Next. These are the approved expenditures, and so you can see that between Montgomery County Public Schools and Montgomery College, that's about $3.6 billion plus. That's more than half of the county's total budget. And after that, public safety is the next big expenditure. That's $755 million gets spent on public safety. That's fire, police, the jail, and everything else related to that, our role in the courts and everything. General government is $396 million. That's all the stuff that is not in these other categories that the government does, services we provide. Transportation is $286 million. A lot of that's the ride-on bus, but it's also other things we do in the county related to transportation. The environment is $200 million. Grants, insurance, and the earned income tax credit is $195 million. The earned income tax credit is a credit for low-income families. We build on the federal program, and we provide a supplement, and it helps make it possible for low-income people to live in the county. Libraries, culture, and recreation are $128 million. Housing is $129 million. The large portion of that is a fund we put out for new housing development, for acquisition and preservation of existing housing and building new housing. OPEB contribution is a contribution to a fund that pays employee health benefits, and this is my least favorite expenditure. So we have retirees, they are insured by us, they have health benefits to us. Every year we pay 100% of their health benefits as part of the regular budget expense. We're putting a lot of money into this fund so that maybe 10 or 15 years from now, the fund will be so big that a council won't have to use any current money and it can be completely paid for by the interest. However, that decision means that there's a lot of money that's not available to meet current needs, so that some council won't have to do what we're doing. Personally, I would let the future councils do what we're doing and let us do more to address current needs. This budget had major cuts in social services, an inability to fund things that we funded last year, and I would have happily taken some of the money out of the future fund and put the money back into the community, because I feel it's pretty important to focus on the community and we don't get hurt in later years, because the fund is never going to be drawn down. It's not like a pension where you have to have that money there because the pensioner is going to go on retirement and you're going to have to pay him money out of the fund. This money is just meant to get so big that the interest is so big that you can pay for things. This fund is billions of dollars. And so in my mind, this is someplace we could be take a little different approach to it. Then there's operational expenses of $80 million, park and planning $205 million, and debt service is $480 million. If you wonder where the debt service comes from, or why we have that kind of number, when Ike was county executive and I was on the council, interest rates were stunningly low. You were borrowing for like 2%. And we had a huge backlog of schools that had not been fixed in the county, and we were trying to address the backlog of schools, and along with some recreation facilities in the county. And so we borrowed money because the cost of borrowing was lower than the inflation on construction. So if we deferred building some of these projects to later years, they would have been more expensive to build. The inflation adjustment was bigger than what the interest was we were paying. At the end of the day, you'd pay it all, but if you build a project 5 years later and you've had 4% inflation for 5 years, that project's costing you 20% more. So we felt it was better off to build it when the interest rates are really cheap. They're getting cheaper again. We just refinanced bonds that we had taken out, and the county made $31 million refinancing bonds. So that money will come back into the budget and it's available for us to use. Anytime our current bonds we're paying out at a higher rate than current interest rates, if the fees and everything work out, we refinance our bonds to try to drive the cost down to the taxpayers as much as we can. So that's my expenditures. This is another version of this, and this is just to give you like the bigger picture. So this is the college and MCPS, and you can see it all together on one graph. Then there's public safety here in the gray. This is the rest of the operating budget. So you get an idea of how much money we spend on public safety. And then there's the debt service. Again, the OPEB and pension reserves are up there, and then PAYGO is money we put into the capital budget. It's actually cash. And sometimes when we've got enough cash, we put more cash in there so we reduce our borrowing. And last year we were able to put more cash in there. Next. So these are the fiscal challenges and budget pressures that we go into this year. I could probably put the same chart up most every year, and there were some unique things this time. You all know what the blueprint is? Anybody not know what the blueprint is? So the blueprint is the state plan for reforming the schools and all the expenditures that people have to make. One of them, for example, is by next year, all teachers have to make a minimum of $60,000 a year in every county in the state of Maryland. And so a couple of years ago, we started getting the schools closer. That was the year we raised taxes, because we've got to get up to 60. Our teachers make so little money, their starting pay doesn't qualify them for a moderately priced dwelling unit in Montgomery County. Not because it's too high, but because it's too low. And so we're raising it, but we've got another factor that's going to hit us. We can't be at 60 when everybody else in the state is at 60. DC, by the way, is at 75. So we're competing with DC for teachers. But if we're at 60, and someplace on the sunny eastern shore where there's a beach is at 60, and someone in more rural, calmer parts of the state of Maryland is at 60, we're not going to be able to compete for teachers. So we're going to have to go back along with some other jurisdictions and be higher than most of the rest of the state in order to continue to bring teachers here. We have constrained resources. We don't have a lot of places to go for money. We don't have unlimited taxing authority. We can't invent new taxes. We're very constrained by the state in terms of what we can and cannot tax. So we have limited resources we can bring to bear on a budget. Our infrastructure demands are serious. The schools, despite all the money we've put into the schools in the capital, continue to need additional improvements. Schools are still old. You know, we're finally getting around to Poolsville, which was, how long did it sit there? Yeah. You know how long it sat there. Is it 70 years since it was built or something like that? That's a long time before you get to a school. So we've got other schools and other infrastructure. We've got bridges that need repair and replacement. We've got roadways that are in serious trouble in some places. So all those are demands on our infrastructure. Inflation and market conditions, you know, the inflation's been a little bit high since COVID. It's kind of come down now. It's more back down to earth. And no matter what anybody says, this is not record high inflation. Some presidential candidates saying it was record high. Go back to the 70s when mortgages were up around 20%. That was record high inflation. We're not there, but it was certainly high enough that it disrupted people's ability to spend money. And it certainly tamped down on the house market because people were used to mortgages under 5%. When mortgages got close to 8 or more, the housing market really died for us. So that was a problem for us. Maintenance of effort per student. We have to maintain spending on children in the school system at last year's rate with an adjustment for population growth. And so it's almost like the school system couldn't save money if they wanted to under state law, because if the population grows, they have to spend more money. And it's not something the county can say we're not doing. So that drives the costs. I talked about real estate tax volatility in terms of recordation and transfer, and then recruitment retention changes. The workforce has changed, and people are not going back to work for the wages they went back to work for. So we're in a competitive environment. We know that, for example, we had to raise police pay over the last year because we had gone from one of the best paid police departments from one of the worst paid police departments. Same with fire a few years ago, and same with some of our other staff where people could work here, they can work in the private sector. There's so much difference between us and the private sector. We lose out to the private sector, so we have to adjust our pay rates so we can get people to continue to come here and want to work here. So those are kind of the challenges we have. And so these are some examples of other things that give me heartburn. You can look over here. This is FY10. The dotted line and the gray line, that's spending of the state of Maryland and Montgomery County combined. We were spending $22,800 per pupil. We're at $20,639 now, adjusted for inflation. So we've dropped our per pupil spending about 10% from where we were in FY10. I can only tell you our school system's gotten more complex, our population is more complex, and the fact that we're spending less is not a good thing. I was a school teacher. One of the biggest impacts is the number of aides that are in the schools, and aide time in a school is what gives a teacher a second hand in a classroom. So when I was teaching, I had an aide almost my entire day. By the time I stopped teaching in 2006, I was asked, what 45 minutes do I want my aide for? And how this plays out, just as an example, they still do 90-minute blocks of reading and 90-minute blocks of math in elementary school. If you have kids who are kind of normal in much of the county, you've got everything from kids who in the 5th grade are actually at the 2nd grade level. You've got some kids who are in 3rd or 4th grade level, and some kids are 5th and 6th. You now have to teach 3 different lessons to 3 different groups of kids in the same 90 minutes that you had before. And what that means in terms of education is that instead of giving one 90-minute class to everybody, you're getting one 30-minute class to 1/3 of the kids, and without an aide in your classroom, those kids are working independently. You might be able to pull that off with middle school kids and high school kids. Elementary school kids working independently, not so much, and not getting the support they need. So one of the things I hope we get back to is putting more aides in the schools to work with the teachers. I think it's really important. This is just Montgomery County dollars, and you can see what happened there. We were at $16,300 at a peak, we're down to 13,200. That's even a bigger decrease in per pupil spending. So I know a lot of people got frustrated with the school system last year. It was a very bad year for them on a lot of different levels, but cutting their budget only punishes the kids. You know, the administrators that many people weren't happy with and policies that we weren't fond of, it's fine to be mad, and we should express and try to work with the school system to make the changes they need to make. And I haven't been shy about what I think about how they've run some things. But when you take money out of the schools, you're not punishing the administrators. They're still getting $250,000 a year or more in their jobs. You're punishing the kids. You're taking aides out of the classroom and services out of the classroom. So I just kind of urge people, temper your anger and focus your anger on the people who you should be angry at, but don't do things that hurt the children because you're frustrated with the school system, because anything that makes it harder for them to learn, we're all going to pay for later. So we shouldn't be confused about the outcomes. Next. So this is Montgomery County now compared to all these other school districts in terms of spending. 10 years ago, we would have been at the top of that chart, but now it's Baltimore City, Howard County, Prince George's County, all spending more per student than we spend. That is not where you want to be on a chart. Next. This is what we've been doing with general obligation bonds. Bonds are the things we fund most of our capital improvements with. When I was on the council, we were spending $340 million a year. We're now spending about $280 million a year. So over 6 years, which is what our capital budget's, that's $360 million less that's being spent on roads, road improvements, maintenance, schools, you name it. That's a capital project. We've reduced it. We're not able to keep up with inflation. If we had been spending in $300 million in FY9, and we were spending probably more than that by then, we'd be up at about $500 million today. That's where we are today. So our spend doesn't even keep pace with inflation. So over the last 6 years, 280 6 years ago does not buy or bought a lot more than what 280 buys today. And that's the problem. You cannot keep level spending on capital projects and expect to keep up with your construction needs and your infrastructure needs in the county. It is simply not possible to do more with less unless you can find the construction crews that will also do more for less. But if the people we have to hire aren't doing that, then we need to expect our costs to rise. And you've got to keep these numbers more in line with inflation than to let ourselves get this out of whack with where we should be. Next. We need tax restructuring in this county. And I wanted to start by saying I am not interested in raising taxes on residents. That is not our problem here. And so we've been looking at what our competitors across the river do compared to Montgomery County. I'm going to get to a slide about that. But our current property tax structure is based on residential development. It dates from the 50s and 60s. It provided a lot of money in its time. We weren't we didn't have urban areas. But, I grew up in Silver Spring. I moved from DC 2 miles into Silver Spring in 1960. The only downtown in Montgomery County was Silver Spring. And what made it a downtown is it had a Heck company, had a Heck's auto store, and a J.C. Penney and a G.C. Murphy and a bunch of other stuff. Wheaton Plaza, when I moved there, didn't exist. It was a field. Rockville, nothing beyond Rockville had any substantial presence in the county. Bethesda was dinky. It was not the home to major corporations or offices or anything like that. So we were a very different place back then. During this time, we were able to build a lot of schools. Land was relatively cheap. It was abundant. So you're not in a situation now where if population grows in areas that were previously built out, you can't find another school site. In the 50s and 60s, finding school sites was a really easy thing to do. Montgomery County is now a mature and developed community. But if we're going to maintain our competitive edge and have a vital community, we have to be able to invest in schools. We have to be able to invest in transportation. And the communities in Northern Virginia have figured out how to do this. And it's not new taxes on residents, it's restructuring highway tax. Northern Virginia, as I will show you on the next slide, oh, not the next slide, that's the transfer and recordation tax volatility. So you can see the spike in 2022 and then the drop off in the last 2 years. That's a pretty sharp decline from where we were. And it's also below the trend line. Now the other fun slide. Next slide. My 3 favorite slides, all in one. So we looked at the tax structure on commercial property in Montgomery County, the District of Columbia, and Fairfax County. And what you'll see if you pay attention to the slide is businesses are not going to Fairfax County because of the low taxes on commercial property. They're going to a county where their property taxes on commercial property are 50% higher than they are in Montgomery County. And all that stuff you see getting built in DC downtown, all their growth, they're at $1.89. We're at $1, where's ours? $1.15, but that includes 11 cents of state tax. There is no state tax in Virginia, so everything they get off residents goes straight to the counties in Northern Virginia, in this case Fairfax. 11 cents of what we get goes to the state, so it doesn't even stay here and do anything. So if you compare them, DC is at $1.89 at the top of their tax rate. If your commercial property is worth more than $10 million, you're paying $1.89. If your commercial property is worth $5 million, you're paying $1.60. If it's down at the bottom there, I think that's 8, you're paying $1.04, and residents are paying 89 cents. Because if you could, or is it 85 cents, because if your commercial property is $1.89, you're able to lower your residential taxes. Fairfax County, pretty much the same thing. Commercial and residential are the same in Fairfax County at the base, but there are a bunch of taxes in Fairfax that drive the tax rate to $1.51. If you're in Tyson's Corner, they're $1.51. If you're in the Route 28 corridor, they're around $1.40. All that money goes into the county there, and all of it goes to build transportation. In about 2012, the developers and the Fairfax Council made an agreement. The developers wanted Fairfax, the new master plan of Fairfax, to be passed, and they wanted Fairfax County to be able to build the transportation. And they knew if they could build the transportation there, they would benefit from massive development. It was not rocket science. So they couldn't do it because state law prohibited them from having a different tax rate for residents and for commercial property. So they go down to the state legislature, developers and council together, and the state legislature is Republican with a Republican governor, and they asked the legislature to give the Northern Virginia counties the ability to levy taxes on commercial property so they could build infrastructure. And the developers agreed to this because the money could only be used for infrastructure. You couldn't feed anybody with it. You couldn't provide health care to anybody with it. You couldn't provide affordable housing to anybody with it. It all had to go into infrastructure, and primarily transportation infrastructure. They built major transportation projects in Northern Virginia that we cannot possibly do because we have no source of funds to do it. Arlington County, a small county compared to Montgomery County, an $800 million budget compared to my $7 billion budget, floated bonds of about $250 million to build out one metro station. I can't even build an entrance to the North Bethesda metro station with the amount of capital we have available. So here we are with a $7 billion budget. All of that's because these counties have a different tax structure. They didn't put it on the backs of the residents because they knew what we know is we tried to tax you to pay for all this stuff. You're going to say, why am I paying for all the things that are make developers rich? I know what this is. Been around, I've been doing this stuff for 12 years on the council and 5 years of this. I know how people feel. They're not going to pay for somebody else. Somebody will say, well, this is going to be great for you. But what you're looking at is just higher taxes, and then you only get the benefit from the increase in your property value if you die. And then it's not you benefiting anyway. So we have boxed ourselves into a situation where we cannot build infrastructure. It is absolutely impossible. I can't increased my bonding enough to build infrastructure. As we now know, the state has no money to build infrastructure. The $8 billion they thought they had turned out to be a complete mirage. There was no $8 billion. Moore didn't suddenly make that money disappear. It was never there. Just a nice little paperwork fiction. So we are really stuck. And I've asked for a number of years. I tried on the council, I've tried with this council, to get them to look at the taxing structure that Virginia has. And we've got to quote the governor of Virginia after they passed the taxing structure, wrote an op-ed in the Washington Post, and he talked about how they were going to be able to transform Northern Virginia with these taxes into a business center for the state of Virginia, and they did it. And we sit and look at that. You'll hear everybody says, look at Virginia. Why aren't you like Virginia? Why is everybody going to Virginia? They go to Virginia because Virginia builds infrastructure. We don't do anything. Nothing. We've had the purple line on the books. Not the purple line, that's the state's problem. But we've had bus rapid transit on the books since probably 2010, 2012. We have not built an inch of proper bus rapid transit anywhere. They did the Silver Line, a multi-billion-dollar project. They had help from the state and the federal government, but they put a ton of money into it themselves. They have to pay for Metro. They have one tax in Northern Virginia that gets the counties $500 million a year for transportation projects. Fairfax County has a 12.5-cent tax on every square inch of commercial property. Every square inch. All that money goes to transportation. They have 0.7 of a cent sales tax. All that goes to transportation. They make major investments in transportation, and we refuse to make the same investments. And then we wonder why we're not able to do what Virginia does. It's not rocket science. I'm not saying anything that everybody else is looking at this data hasn't reached the same conclusion. So we're going to make another push to try to get the council to adopt a tax structure that lets us build the kind of infrastructure we need here if we're going to have the kind of future everybody wants. It's not going to happen if we just sit here doing what we're doing right now. We've got 12 years of difference between our tax structure and Virginia's tax structure. You can see where they went and you can see where we went. I'll be blunt, our job numbers are flat. Flat. It's hard to get people to come here. The bright spot in Montgomery County is life sciences. We're building life sciences like crazy, but the jobs aren't as great as, large office buildings or large collections of office building. It takes longer for that to become dominant. But that's the one industry that we're really, really competitive in. We got a couple of hotel headquarters here, but they don't expand because their folks are mostly in hotels around the world. So they grow, but you don't see the same kind of growth locally. So they're important for tax revenue, but it's not a solution in terms of jobs. And we need, if we're going to see more housing, we need more jobs. This county has right now 31,000 approved housing units that could be built tomorrow if a developer pulled the building permit. They're not pulling them because the incomes and the jobs here aren't high enough. And they've told us that. We know that because Park and Planning did a study about White Flint and said, why aren't you guys building? And they said, because we can't get high enough rents. Part of the problem is Park and Planning zones everything for high-rise, which pretty much guarantees that the rents are only going to be high. It's hard to build an affordable high-rise building anymore. It's not like the 60s when people were building tall buildings that were affordable. Those days are gone. So we're in a very difficult situation. So we're going to make another run at it. It is, if we want change in this county and you want to see a stronger tax base and you don't want to get done for everything we try to do, we need to change the basic underlying tax here. And there's no two ways about it. Next. This is the tax burden on commercial property. All this data, by the way, is not mine. It comes from other people. Sometimes I take Park and Planning data. This comes from the district government. They do comparisons every couple of years on the tax impacts in the DC, and they compare themselves to everybody else in these charts. The chart on the left is the taxes for a small corporation, all the different taxes they pay. The chart on the right is the taxes for a large corporation. The most expensive place to develop is Washington, D.C. Not surprising, because their tax rate's $1.89. Next most expensive place, Alexandria. Third most expensive place, Arlington. Fourth most expensive place, Fairfax. Fifth most expensive place, Prince George's. Cheapest place to build in either of these categories is Montgomery County. So you got to ask yourself, if you're the cheapest state, why is nobody taking you out? What's the problem? You know, nobody's running to Virginia to pay these high taxes and complain about it. They go to Virginia because they're in a better business climate and they're in a better infrastructure climate than Montgomery County. And until we wrap our heads around what it takes to be serious in this world, we're going to continue to fail to get there. So I just want you all to understand what we're dealing with, because it would be really helpful if we make proposals suggesting we move toward a Virginia system, if we get residents to say, yeah, we're ready for progress here. We're tired of sitting still and not doing anything. It's time to move this county forward, and that's what we want to do. Next, what's on your mind? So I just wanted to give you an overview of what we're dealing with and what we think we need to do if we're going to get the resources to build the kind of things you want us to build. I hate having to say no to stuff, but I say no to a lot of things I don't want to say no to. But getting a better system for us would help us get out of this box. So hope this is helpful for a beginning, and then I'll take questions now. And there are people with microphones. Is it one of you or two of you? Just one. Okay, we have one person with a microphone.
Oh, yeah, you're smart to hold it. I'm Susan. I'm with Peace Action Montgomery. Yeah. And I actually want to deduct something from the budget, and that's the grant that we give the Maryland Israel Development Center, and we asked that you take it away last year. But they have brought in the Israeli military weapons manufacturer RADA to our county. They have brought Elta and Raphael, which aren't weapons manufacturer. They're actually the Israeli military itself. Their success story is that guy who was in front of your building saying he was going to chop off the heads of people at the ceasefire. So this is really not reflective of our values, and it's very hard for us to go to Jamie Raskin and David Trone and say, stop giving our money for military weapons when we are giving grants for the MIDC to come here. So thanks.
Okay. Can you get to Richard? He's had his hand up.
Sorry, it's okay. Oh, I'm sorry. I don't know.
We hold the mic because we've had occasions where it's hard to get it back sometimes.
I'm sorry. Look, I was just wondering, to change Montgomery County to the Virginia side commercial taxation system, procedurally, does that require both county council approval, and also does it have to go on a ballot or something as well?
No, we can do this. We can do this at the county level. There are two ways we can do it. We can get the state legislature to give us authority to implement special taxing districts. If we got that, we would basically take a half-mile radius, so a mile-wide swath along all the major transportation corridors and the CBDs and the activity centers, and we would carve out all the existing residential. But we wouldn't have to carve it out. We would just say this is only a tax on commercial property. If we can't do it that way, we can do what we did in White Flint, which is messy. Loudoun County did the same thing. You draw a very squiggly map, and you draw out all the residential property that already exists. So if there's an apartment building in an area that's getting redeveloped and it's going to stay where it is, it wouldn't pay any of these taxes unless it gets developed. But all the commercial property would pay into this tax. And I will say that it's a big deal for developers, because right now developers pay impact fees. They don't actually get anything for the impact fee. There's no guarantee the money they give the county will actually be spent where the money comes from, which is a real problem, but it comes lumpy. You get somebody builds a building, you get money, but it doesn't mean you're going to have money in ongoing years, so you can't float a bond. With the tax district, you can float a bond, and everybody pays in the tax districts. Everybody pays very little, and the developers, they do what they do anyways. It gets passed on to the tenants. This is the way we can do it. There are two ways. I'd rather do it cleanly, where we just say residential property is excluded from this. But if we have to draw squiggly lines, we're going to draw squiggly lines.
Okay, thank you.
Ingrid Ramos, and I'm a program officer at a local nonprofit called Liberty's Promise, and we serve low-income immigrant youth in Montgomery County and in other diverse counties across Maryland, DC, and Virginia. Before I kind of say what's on our mind, as a nonprofit organization, I actually would like some of my students to introduce themselves. They're from Gaithersburg High School, so if you don't mind, you guys want to say your name and then what year you're in school? So we can start with Alfredo.
Hello, I'm Alfredo. I'm 10th grader at Gaithersburg High School.
All right, hello, my name is Christopher, and I'm a senior.
Hello, my name is Kyle Mashonga. I am a senior.
Hello, my name is Molly. I'm a junior in Gaithersburg High School and Montgomery College.
Hello, my name is Kevin, and I am a senior year of high school.
Hi, my name is Kishante, and I'm a junior.
So I just wanted to say on behalf of Liberty's Promise, we are wanting to increase the youth or youth program budget. It was pretty low this last year, and we found ourselves really struggling to be able to meet the demands across Montgomery County. This semester alone, we've expanded to middle schools as well across in the mid-county and down-county areas, and we're serving around or more than 300 immigrant youths just this semester alone in Montgomery County. So we're hoping to increase the budget, whether that looks like 3 to 4 times more, just to really meet the heavy increased demand for recently immigrated youth, up county, mid county, and down county. Up county alone, we only are able to serve Gaithersburg High School this year, and we're seeing a lot more demand across high schools such as Watkins Mill or even Gaithersburg Middle School, and even returning to other programs we previously had, like Quince Orchard High School, but we aren't able to meet those certain needs and demands across all these different communities because there's just so little money provided for youth programs in Montgomery County.
So, I don't think we spend a little, but we may not spend as much as you want us to spend. We're limited by what's in the budget. And I'm limited by what's in the budget, by what our revenues are. So as we get more revenues, we've been willing to spend more money on social programs. I'm a big supporter of social programs. I've put a lot of money in my budget for programs. We'll continue to put a lot of money in. But I can't promise any one group, because I can guarantee you that I can list any number of other groups who are going to come here and say, I want more too. And I just don't have the ability to give everybody as much as they want, not under current circumstances. So it's not a totally satisfying answer, but I think I'm just asking you to understand that we're constrained by what our expenses are. And there are so many fixed expenses in the county that there's the amount of money that's fungible, that you can just decide it could go here or it could go there, is not as much money as people think. It's a $7 billion budget with not a lot of room for maneuvering between different people. But I don't make those decisions. They actually go, this year they went to a committee of people who evaluate the requests. They evaluate your requests against everybody else's requests, and it's competed that way. I'm just hoping we can pour more money into it than we had last year.
Yeah, hi, I'm Paula Brooks. I'm actually the president of Gaithersburg Meals on Wheels.
Oh, yeah.
We're totally volunteer. 85 volunteers, no one's paid. We don't have an office. I do have a closet. That's it, a closet I can work out of for my coolers to deliver the meals. Once a day, we deliver a hot meal and a cold meal. Our budget, up until now, you guys, county's been great. This time, I can feed 84 people with the people I have, but now I've only got enough money for 77 people. And of that, only 4 people under 60, including the guy who's bedridden, can't go out. He has an aide who comes in twice a day. Otherwise, I don't even know how he eats if we didn't deliver. So I need $3,000 per person a year, and that gets them 2 meals a day, Monday through Friday, and someone to check on them, which is the biggest thing. You know, I myself, when I was a driver, I found 2 people on the floor passed out and had to call 911. If I hadn't been the Friday driver, they would have been there till Monday. So I think we did a good job. And all you do is pay us $12 a day per person. I need $18,000. I think I got some names of people. We're going to keep working on this. But I keep seeing out there's more of a need. We never had a waiting list. Yeah, you know, maybe a week or two, 1 or 2 people. I got 28 people. I had to tell a woman who fell, broke her shoulder, came back. She's got arthritis. She's in her 80s, and she needed a meal. And she takes care of her husband. She's the sole provider to take care of her husband with dementia. And I had to say, no, I don't have any room for you. So my heart's breaking every day. So we need better coordination. I'm a volunteer. I mean, I've been 20 hours a week as a volunteer. And I'm burnt out. We got to have a better solution for feeding, how we take care of our elderly and our feeble. And, you know, a society is judged on how we treat our children, our disabled, and our elderly. And I think it should be one of our highest priorities. I will work with you, staff. I got the names of a couple people. Good. And I'm sorry I'm getting a little emotional about this, but it's important to me. There's a Seneca Heights. Do you know about Seneca Heights? Yeah. Okay. They got people who have been waiting to go to assisted care for years. We've been helping out a little bit. I don't have the resources. I could feed 12, 20 people there who need to be checked out and have a nutritious meal. They live on bologna sandwiches and canned peaches. I can get them a nutritious meal, but we got to work together, and I need your help.
I went out with Silver Spring Meals on Wheels, I guess last week or 2 weeks ago, and did Silver Spring in Tacoma Park, in the church off of New Hampshire Avenue there. And so I went out and did a few meals, and I got to talk to some people, and their issue is the same thing. I think that food needs continue to be real. There are some people who don't agree with me. They don't understand why we're doing food programs after COVID's over. You should make sure that you get in front of those people when hearings come up and talk about why you still need the food programs. I don't see, and most of the food providers have said they don't see any reduction in demand, and that they still need it. We expect to get some federal money. Hopefully the election doesn't derail it, but if we get some federal money this year, we're going to try to put a supplemental in to fill in some of the gaps we weren't able to get funded. We had cuts in our food programs and some other things. So if I have some room and it doesn't require going into reserves or anything else, we'll probably send over a supplemental to try to deal with some of these social issues. But you're right. It's a very inexpensive service. People really need it, and they depend on you for being there, and it makes them very happy when the food comes. And it's kind of hard. So you're not doing this on weekends, and you got to wonder what people are doing for food over the weekend. If they couldn't go out and get it Monday through Friday, I don't know why we think they can go out and get it on Saturday or Sunday. So I hear you. I will see what I can do to try to find some money to try to fix some of these things. You're not asking for a lot. So let me see what I can do.
Mark, here, thank you. It's an honor for me to be part of this community in this so international town, having an opportunity to hear from our authorities openly about what the money situation is like. So I have to tell you, as somebody that grew up in a different country, I admire this, and I thank you for this opportunity. But I also hear you saying two very important things, that we don't want to hurt the children, like the petition the lady made. I also hear you saying, you see what you can do, but you have to work like in the serious game of the players, right? Like fair facts like the others. At the same time, I see everything like so twisted. Let me just put you one example to try everything together. The kids that are from other countries where people starving, because this country throws away enough food to feed everybody that is starving in the planet, happens big time in Montgomery. Every single school of this county is throwing away more than 100 pounds of perfectly good food every day. And that kid could be the neighbor of the person in the Meals on Wheels. And that food is not being donated to the Meals on Wheels. We're taking it to anaerobic digesters where it's and I've seen it with my own hands, perfectly high quality red peppers, you know, and high food that could be eaten by good humans that need it here. We have it twisted. Building an anaerobic digestion with high food that should be provided to humans is not going to be the solution. Let me just put one more point. My community in Poolesville, okay, doesn't know about these topics. I've been living there for 2 years. When we bought our lives to put roots and our mortgage in Poolesville, had no idea there was an incinerator there. Had no idea about the food scraps. And I had no idea that there are people there fighting for decades because they don't want our community to die. And I felt so proud that you said we were going to close that incinerator. I joined a volunteer group because you promised. And I give my time like this lady gives, only to find out that we are not. I talk to council members and their aides think that we don't have the ducks in a row. Sir, we have the ducks in a row.
We have some of the ducks in a row. We've finished the study. We have a consultant that's given us a plan. We're going to bring the plan to the council. We can't shut it until we need a place. Frankly, we need a place to put a lot of the food, which is not good food, which is in there, because we've got to reduce the amount of tonnage we're going to take to our landfill, and we've got to make some other changes in operations. This thing will be shut probably in 2 years. We're going to do a 2-year extension so we can build a new facility. There's no place to change. You can't change all the things we have to do. We have to change the way we collect plastic. And there are ways for us to make money on plastic that we're not doing right now. We're going to change what we do with bottles. There are ways to make money. We're trying to monetize, which means make as much money as possible off the waste stream so we can drive down the cost of this project to the public. But it's something we have to do. I said I would do it. The previous executive extended the contract. We're working to come up with a plan that actually lets us build a new facility. So there's actually a plan now for a new facility, and it'll be a much higher rate of food recovery is going to become mandatory. Everybody in the county is going to be contributing to food recovery, and all the grocery stores under state law, if there's a digester within a certain distance and we meet the distance requirement, they're all going to have to provide their waste food to the county. And I hope we can do more about collecting. You raised a good point about schools. I mean, are you in the schools? Is that where you work?
No. I have kids.
Okay, because I was going to say, what you talk about is meals being thrown away. I don't know why we can't figure out a way with things like Meals on Wheels and some of these other folks to collect untouched food trays where the kids haven't eaten the food and put them out and give them to a group like Meals on Wheels so they could distribute them. But that requires some coordination, but at least, and you reminded me that we could actually work with the school system on that. I will see what I can generate. We have a food resiliency council. We have an office now all focused on food and food recovery, so they might also be a place for you to talk to. But I think the schools might be an interesting, fertile place to get things that are already sitting on a tray that we might be able to take to somebody who could use it.
There is an ally on this because everyone in Montgomery needs to reduce their waste to begin with. But we cannot we can continue putting these toxic ashes in places where it's even more humane to just not transport toxic ashes and not give us all the air that we're breathing. So thank you for collaborating with us, and thank you for saying that, and I'm going to have to help you stay accountable to that. Gracias.
Thank you.
Hello. Hello, Hi, I'm Julia Burke. I live in Shady Grove, and I'm with Just Neighbors Immigration Legal Services. We provide immigration legal services for those 200% or below of the federal poverty guidelines in the DMV. So we do operate in Northern Virginia, across Virginia, DC, and Maryland. And in FY 2024, we had 183 residents from Montgomery County reach out to us for immigration help. We only had funding from the county for 20 clients, but we were able to serve 47 clients from Montgomery County. However, with that new budgeting and the grants process, despite a score of 93 out of 100, we didn't get any new funding. We just have the bridge funding, which is only for about 13 clients. We are still going to be able to serve more than the 13 clients that the county funds us for, but part of that is just calls continue to increase, and we're able to get funding from other sources. But immigration status is a barrier to medical care, employment, and many public benefits. It's also a huge social determinant of health. So in a county that champions diversity and prioritizes welcoming immigrants, as exemplified in the Newcomer Initiative and the Gilchrist Center, I'm just asking that, looking to FY 2026, that as the grants system gets realigned or is different, that we refund immigration legal services across the board, particularly in this upcoming election year where we don't know how challenging it can be.
You'll know in a month.
Yeah.
So we'll look at that. Like I said, we're re-examining what happened last year and how citizens made decisions about where the money went. I've asked our departments to be more intentional about requests. The system was wide open, so anybody could apply for doing anything, and that was way too wide open, and we don't have enough resources to do that. We need to focus on what our priority areas are.
Hi, Mark. James Mensa, good to see you again. My wife and I own a arts and community hub incubator that focuses on arts to stimulate economic growth. However, up county here, as most people may or may not know, 2 weeks ago there was a shooting where youth, proposed youth, shot 40 bullets, not one but 40. And a lot of times I see where we can use the space of different stimulants to get to the youth, and oftentimes we try to connect this with the county. We've done this in Wheaton, and you know me from the Wheaton area. And I'm trying to connect here to do the same thing. Because often if we wait for the next 7 years to build a community center, that's going to take planning and budgeting, everything you're talking about. We have different ideas and concepts to kind of jump right in. And I think our community up here, because I actually live in this area, needs to find that connection with your board, with your team, and with your administration. So I like to talk to whoever I need to connect with,
Ruben,
to really infuse that up here.
So Ruben, the guy who talked first, is Regional Services Director. He's out there working in the community. He'd be a good person to start with, and he can direct you to other people in our social services who would be good people to start to work with. But I hear what you're saying. We need a pathway other than jail, frankly.
Yeah.
Because that's, for those of you who don't think about it this way, giving kids jail sentences is like giving somebody a life sentence, because they will not get a job after that, and they will not get an apartment after that. And so you may get 6 months for something you did that could be pretty trivial, but you're not going to wind up paying for it for the rest of your life. We've got to rethink our approach to crime. If we're going to settle for a model of punishment and unrelenting, burdens that come from that, we're not going to fix these problems. We need to make sure the kids, I've been pushing at the state level to get treatment facilities. We have no beds in the county except for one facility. We have nowhere near the number of beds we need. They've opened a facility in Baltimore where we're going to get access to some of the beds. It's still not enough beds for the number of kids who need help. So we're pushing as hard as we can to find more programs and more ways to get kids help.
Yeah, because I will add, because if you don't add in the mental health piece to it and the engagement, you're just shooting in the dark. Yep. And that's just a waste.
I agree. You're not going to lecture them into behavior.
Good evening, Mr. Eldridge. First of all, really informational presentation. I'm from Montgomery College along with my friends, and we just want to say something about our experience from Montgomery College. First of all, my name is Aditya, and I'm a computer science major from Montgomery College, Germantown campus. And the programs that are introduced in Montgomery College, specifically the honors program and the teachers that work with students over there is really, really efficient. I am an international student here, and I came to Montgomery College specifically because of the affordable tuition that it offers, and secondly, the engagement of teachers with students. When you compare with the four-year university, is really, really good. I have felt that students can go and approach the teachers in a really safe manner and can take advices so that they can hone their skills. Specifically through the honors program, I was able to intern at federal institutions like Library of Congress, NIH, NIST, and that actually gave me a perspective to go and pursue the field of research after I take a transfer from here. And specifically when you talk about STEM, the kind of equipment that Montgomery College offers, initially when you just say the word community college, that won't come in your mind. But when you see these equipment specifically in the STEM field, that actually promotes you to go in a four-year university and do the work that you want to do, specifically research-oriented. So I want to thank you for your continuous support to Montgomery College, and I wish that this support continues in the future, and we are really thankful for that. My friends might want to add something to it.
Hello, my name is Madeline. I'm also a student at Montgomery College. I'm majoring in biology and math, and I'm hoping to go to medical school if I can. I also wanted to thank you for your support of Montgomery College. 2 years ago, I got a GED, and in terms of affordability, as well as because I have a GED, MC was my only option, but since I've been there, a lot of doors have opened for me. Through their honors program, I've also been able to get an internship at the Library of Congress, and they provided me with a stipend so that I could afford to work for free all summer and have that experience. Through their service learning programs, I've also been able to volunteer with Habitat for Humanity, as well as some local middle schools to get young women more engaged in the STEM fields. And I just wanted to thank you for that. And as I've been at MC, I've seen stories like mine play out over and over again, like people who have limited options are able to come to MC and find a community where they can be supported and bolstered and do things that they didn't think they could do before. These are people who are, immigrants or first-generation college students or single parents who can, like I said, come to MC and not be held back by financial instability. So that's why I'm really grateful for your continued support of us and that enabling us to keep our tuition affordable for our students. So thank you.
MC is an easy one. And, you get an education that is pretty comparable to a four-year school, and that's unusual. It's probably the best community college in the country. And I was at the opening of the new Silver Spring Catherine and Ike Leggett building in math and science, and it's pretty amazing. And you've got labs in there that, would pass muster any place. Your students are going to be doing real work with real equipment. And, we've opened this Institute for Health Computing in Pike and Rose and North Bethesda. And that institute now has 50 people working there. They get interns sometimes. It's all focused on bringing AI research to medical research and also patient research. So if you get curious, you might want to poke around and see what kind of things they do down there. But we're trying to build an ecosystem that's complete. This is our first graduate level university we've ever had in the county. So we've got you and USG, and now we've got this graduate level program. So we think we can provide a broader and broader range of education opportunities. So thank you for doing that, and thank you for sticking through everything.
Hello, Steve Lapham here from over on this side, from Quail Valley HOA over by Strawberry Knoll Elementary School. We talk about, and we do want to support homeowners and immigrants, but I was in a courtroom on 2 different mornings last month in support of my Hispanic neighbor, and the HOA is taking him to court while he has applied for mediation through the County Commission on Common Ownership. So even though you apply for mediation, have mediation going, your HOA can sue you. And I'm watching this, learning about it, and our budget, our money is going to support this commission that homeowners see as not helping them and even hurting them. And I would like to see forums like this. This is a great forum on the topic of HOAs and condominium associations that are attacking homeowners It's a statewide problem, it's a nationwide problem, but we have our brand of it, and we need to begin paying attention to this. So my question to you would be, would you kind of help work with us to have a forum like this somewhere in the county where people can give their testimonies, and in the meantime, stop accelerating assessments. When you miss an assessment, it might be the HOA's fault. They immediately charge you for the next 12 months. It's obscene. And if through an executive order you could stop HOA lawsuits against you while you're trying to mediate. This fellow made the effort and paid the $50, and he says, yes, I missed a few payments during COVID. I would like to pay it back, but the HOA's game is to slap as many fines and fees. Judge Karen Ferretti used the word insane as she described in the court, in Maryland District Court, the behavior of our homeowners association. This is not unusual. The county needs to face this problem, and this commission needs to have some sunlight shining upon it.
So we've got a committee working on HOCs and community, the other form of HOAs, and the community associations, because there's a big problem. Part of their problem is financial, because I don't know how many of you are in HOAs, but a lot of them did not ever raise the money they needed to raise over the years for the kind of repairs they were going to face. And then all of a sudden, you have to go repave a street or do something to a building, and you don't have the reserves to go do it with. And then you hit residents with massive increases that they weren't prepared for. So it's a mess in general, and I agree with you about the governance. I just wish that you're going to need a change in the state law so that we bring some reason to the way these things operate. The county has very little power. We were able to get that they had to go through training. That was like pulling teeth. And even with the training, apparently some people still aren't going through training. So I'm happy to work with you. Dale Tibbetts is in the audience. Dale gets stuck with all these things. So Dale, you might want to talk to him. And I would be open to holding a forum and just letting people come in and talk. But I'd hope at the end of it we could figure out, is there a legal path to do some of this stuff? Because I hate to get a room full of people venting and then say, and there's nothing we can do about it. That's not fun. Anything, if you need support on that, I will definitely support legislation you guys push for.
Thank you for the opportunity, Mr. Elrich, and for initiating the conversation. I have some questions about the special taxing district.
Yep.
Your presentation references properties in DC and Fairfax valued at over $10 million and $5 million, respectively, I believe. Would this taxing district in Montgomery County similarly be dependent on the value of the properties, so that small properties with historically low rents that maybe were in enterprise zones tend to go to mom and pops, many immigrant family businesses be taxed at a lower rate or at the same rate as properties on, say, Rockville Pike? Second question.
Can I answer that part first?
Sure.
It'll be easy. The rates, DC's rates, we're not looking to go into anywhere close to that, and we're also not looking to go into Fairfax rates, because we don't need to. We're not building a God knows how many $1 billion metro system to extend out the rest, and so our needs are a lot less and much more manageable. It also gets spread over everybody instead of only on a few people. But we'll make a proposal, and that could be one of the things we consider, is how do we differentiate within property classes. It depends how much leeway we get from the state in terms of, do I have to have a uniform tax on all commercial property, or how can I go about doing it another way? But if you were a tenant in a building that was built under the old method, you pay it the same way too, because it sits in your rent, because the cost of the development, any development in Montgomery County is more expensive than it would be in Fairfax County because of these impact taxes that sit at the front of a project. So tenants wind up paying a pass-through either way. But we're not trying to drive it through the ceiling. We don't need to.
Okay, I appreciate that. I'm not necessarily talking about new development, because you said any property within half a mile of transit. which could be anything pretty much. So I appreciate your response, but I can tell you small businesses have been hit pretty hard by the taxes that have already been assessed. My other question is, are you proposing these funds go back exclusively to infrastructure like they have in the other
Yep.
counties, or is it going to fill in other gaps?
No, just infrastructure.
Okay, thank you.
Just to finish that, what I'm hoping is by getting some of our existing infrastructure projects out of the general fund, that it frees up general fund dollars to do some of the things we're not able to do otherwise. Because I would like it, because if we rebalance, we would not only do transit in there, but we've got a few major road projects and like a metro entrance project. And if all those things go in there, then the county's portion of the spend can be reduced, I hope. And that would free up our money to do other stuff without raising taxes for the other stuff.
Mark, good to see you again tonight. And thanks for coming to the Fair Access Committee budget.
Thanks for breakfast.
Again, congratulations on winning the Champion of the Western County Award. You deserve it. We're going to expect to see the award on your wall somewhere prominently displayed when we come visit you. I got 3 points, and you weren't there to see a lot of our presentations. I just want to reinforce them. First, fair access, when we make a proposal, we don't just put it on the table. We try to come up with a solution. So we proposed a pool bubble. We've gone down to St. Mary's County and looked at St. Mary's College. They have a pool bubble. We saw them put it up. It's efficient. It can be done. We've talked to the manufacturer. There's good information about how this can be done cheaply, a lot cheaper than building something bricks and mortar. So we want to push that this year if we can get it done.
Idea.
Second, community center. We, again, thank you so much for putting in the budget. There was no POR at the time done on it, so they kind of put it on a placeholder at this point. 29 and 30 is when it's supposed to be designed and constructed. The town is actually moving pretty quickly to try to get land for this center, so it's going to be moved pretty quickly through. We really would like to see it put in the budget this year if we can. The clinic is vital, and WUMCO can tell you about why that's true, and that's the third point is WUMCO's funding, which you, again, help champion. I just want them to quickly talk about why that's so critical. So, Katie, Melissa.
Thank you so much for the funding that has come through. We've got it in our contract about a month now, and we're really so grateful for that. We just need to continue through the years of moving towards being ready for the clinic when it is built and have our services well developed and rigorous. So we will appreciate future funding to continue on that same budget. Thank you.
We're hoping. I mean, I'll be honest with you. Our biggest fear is what happens in November, because, for example, if they move the federal government and start moving agencies out of the D.C. area, which is what some people want to do, we would lose a lot of employment. That would be a big reduction in income taxes and have serious impacts on our budget. So when you think about things people are talking about, massive deportation of immigrants, they would be very destabilizing to the Montgomery County economy. It would not be healthy if those things were to come to pass. So you guys might want to think about it, not a political statement, but just looking at this from the real world, because we're already looking and, we have to think about the day after also. And the day after is not very pretty, not from a budget standpoint.
Hi, my name is Ebony Cox, and I am in the Interfaith Works Women's Center shelter. And I was just concerned about the budget for rental assistance and maybe about the stabilization for those who are in shelter to get stable housing. We didn't say anything about budget in that area.
We have rental assistance. We just don't have enough. The state ended their program. The federal government ended their program. So we lost millions of dollars that we were able to put out during COVID. I don't have the money to replace it with right now. This is not something we cut easily, but I think you've heard there are a lot of different needs in a lot of different areas across the county. And it is not fun to have to make decisions with limited money. But I have to make them, and we will balance and get as much out there as we can. We're hoping that we have a healthy budget. So far, our revenues look good. Property taxes look good. Income taxes so far look good. But we don't know what's going to happen in a month, and that may change. Could be changing for the better, it could change it for the worse.
Okay, one more question. What are we doing as far as the community about management companies overcharging extra fees for Section 8 voucher holders before they even actually get approved for the unit?
So that's illegal, and if you've got examples of that, you should let us know. And so we're looking at what we can do. We're looking at the fees issue because fees have cropped up. And so not only are people collecting rent, but now they're imagining fees they should, that they can charge for other things and that don't qualify as rent. So we're going to see what authority we have to deal with the fee issue as well. It's a problem. But if you've got, Dale, if you've got time afterwards to get our contact information.
Hi, my name is Gail Selkin-Goodman. We've met before. And I'm from Rockville, and I'm here to speak on behalf of the Russian, Farsi, and Bengali communities whose books were recently completely deleted from Montgomery County Public Libraries. This goes against all county policies regarding diversity and inclusion and equity. And this was done, we're finding out now, as we were finding out and as this was in process, we raised complaints and were told that this decision had been taken by the previous outgoing director of libraries and it had to be done. We begged them, for example, to leave the children's collection of Russian books on the shelves, and instead they sped up their efforts to remove the books. I just wanted to point out, I did notice that Montgomery County Public Libraries spends, we're 18th out of 24 counties in Maryland on what we spend on collections for public libraries. And while I see that we are similar with our education system, that we're not at the top where I would assume we'd be, we are so close to the bottom, and there's something wrong with that. So I just wanted to reiterate the need for appropriately funding the library, but also looking into this well, first of all, it's an insult to the communities involved. Most of these collections were developed as a grassroots effort and at very low or in some cases no cost to the county. And the cost of keeping books on the shelves when the libraries are relatively empty and there's plenty of shelf space was zero. And so it's really hard to understand how county employees came up with a plan and did not involve community members as they are mandated to do. And so we all, and also our community would like to be able to share their languages with their kids, because heritage language learners, children of people who speak foreign languages, are an asset.
So, thank you. I found out about that decision, I think, in the last week. It wasn't made at my level. We're going to try to get the books back if they haven't already been dispatched. We have a new library director. I think did she go through the approval process yet, or is she? Carolyn, yes? So you got a new library director. I want two things. I want her to deal with that. I want her to bring back the Friends of the Library the way they used to be. So those are two things I'm going to try to do, because that provided a lot more community input into the libraries. So thank you for raising it. And it is unfortunate that it happened.
Hi. My name is Paula Ross. I'm the president and CEO at the Gaithersburg Germantown Chamber of Commerce. Thank you for holding this forum here in Germantown. We really appreciate it. Thank you for the county's support of our Germantown Emerging Business District program. We are trying to bring the economy back to Germantown and create a thriving business district. We appreciate your support on that. Our Chamber of Commerce represents about 470 businesses in the Up County. As we mentioned, that's about 55% of the county, and 60% of those business members have 10 or fewer employees. So those are small business owners, the smallest of the small business owners. They are mom and pop shops. They are small restaurateurs. They are solopreneurs, and some of them do have commercial space. I would really encourage the county to think about how you're creating a new taxing district for commercial space that doesn't balance the budget on the back of those small business owners.
So I'm not trying to balance the budget. I'm trying to get to a position where we can actually bring businesses here. I mean, we are starving. I mean, our numbers are flat. And we really did make a very bad choice to not make these investments. It was a seriously wrong choice. And we focused on, if we just rezone things, businesses will come. Well, here we are, it's 5 years after I left the council, 12, 15 years after this trend of rezoning everything for higher density. For all the zoning we did, we didn't get anything. You can look around. You do not have companies here that reflect the zoning. So we need to do real things like investment that actually make a difference. I'm more than open to input on this because we're not going to get to the bulk of the revenues out of these small businesses anyway. That's not where we look to find most of the revenue. So I'd be happy to talk with you about that. We can figure out how to make this as easy as possible or gentle as possible at that level, because we're really concerned about the ones that put the most load on the road in terms of traffic, transportation in general.
Sure, I appreciate that, and we'd be open to a conversation with you about that. Those additional taxes, even with larger developers, will get passed on to the tenants who take up smaller spaces. So we are concerned about that. And I agree with you. We need to invest in our community, create a climate that invites business, because rising tides raises all boats. In order to do that, we need to tax our businesses less, reduce our fees in order to attract businesses back to Montgomery County.
I just sort of disagree with you in a fundamental way. Look, they're going to Virginia, where they're paying 50% more taxes than we are. They're going to a place that provides infrastructure. You will not get the infrastructure if we don't have the revenues. And I guarantee you, I will never get a tax passed on the general residents of this county that would raise the money we need to do to build this. It's people who could recognize it in 2 seconds and say it's unfair. So my goal is to minimize the damage on the smallest businesses so they don't pay so much. But hopefully, when you do transit and you revitalize areas, you get more customers. That's why the business community in Fairfax went down and asked the governor and the state legislature to change the law. This wasn't imposed by a Democratic council. It only happened because the Republican administration realized the importance of investing in infrastructure in order to grow business. So how about we take a look at that and see, if we can go easiest on the people who need the most relief and focus on getting as much as we can so we can build the infrastructure we need. Everybody's going to benefit from this. And it is actually cheaper for a developer to do this than to pay the impact taxes, because they're the only ones paying anything. And if you know anything about impact taxes, it's sort of like if I had a glass up here and I'm filling up the glass, good thing I put a cap on that. And I'm filling up the glass, the people who are there when the glass is filling up, they're not paying. But the developer that pours into the glass and it spills over, they get stuck with a mess. That's not fair either. So I want something that's fair to all the businesses in the county, but they're going to benefit. And where there's no transit, there's not going to be. I don't envision covering every square inch of the county with the tax either, because if you're far enough away from the transit, it's hard to justify doing that. So we will be more surgical about what we do. But I'm happy to have you guys in early to talk about it and understand what's reasonable and what's not.
I think my chamber peers across the county would welcome a conversation with you and your office about these matters, and just to sit down and talk about the sustainable funding models.
Should I bring Virginia peers over so they can explain to you why this was a good idea?
If you like.
Okay, thank you. I apologize for not standing on this. My name's Mandy Dalton, and I'm a resident of the Germantown area over in Milestone. I'm a member of Justice and Advocacy Coalition. You're going to come to visit AIM October 15th. Anyway, I'd like to tag off of something that the lady in the red from Interfaith Works was referring to, rental assistance. DHHS took a really big hit in the last budget. I'm a formerly homeless person, and the way I saved my life was renting rooms in other people's houses while I was working 4 jobs. You mentioned RAP. The problem with RAP right now is that they've shut down all of the applications, and there's no definitive time when that is going to be up and open again. There is no money for rental assistance right now. And somebody needs to tell them if there is money for it, but RAP is closed.
Like I said, if we get the federal money we're expecting, I will send over a supplemental to try to fill some of these gaps.
Just to follow up with that also, there are 26 families who are about to be evicted in Mid-County alone at the Enclave.
We're dealing with that now. We had a meeting today. We think there's some money coming to us to help with this. Some people are they're negotiating a payment that allow many of them to stay, and some are going to have to relocate. But my staff is on this. We met with a bunch of people who are also providing help there. We brought in the state. We've talked to the federal government. So we are well aware of this, and we're trying to avoid the evictions.
Okay, good. And then the one last thing, and I thank you for listening to me about this, but what are the plans, since you're fond of saying, I've heard you say it before, and I'm not saying that with disrespect, it's just what you've said, that we can't build our way out of this problem. I understand part of that sentiment. I'm wondering then, what are the options going forward to address the housing crisis? If that isn't the option.
Look, it's not what Park and Planning is talking about. And what they're talking about, you read the front page of their proposal, and they even ask themselves the question, is this about affordable housing? And the answer is no. It's about market rate housing. It has not a damn thing to do with affordable housing. And they've gone out there, they've been talking to people and saying affordable housing, attainable means attainable for everyone. It does not mean attainable for everyone. Because if you say it's not affordable housing, it's not attainable for everyone. So people need to be disabused of the myths they've been putting out there, because they're flat out not true. But, we're going to propose, and we're going to send it over to council. It's a complete communities approach to zoning. And we want to require that when the planning department is zoning an area, doing an activity center, one of the bigger areas, I don't mean like your neighborhood street, but when you're doing a rezoning of a Wheaton or any other place, that you have to plan for everybody. You've got to have housing in your plan that meets the least among us, and housing in your plan that addresses the most among us. And that we got to do that, because they continue to do plans like Bethesda, where they zone the entire place for high-rise. They know that high-rise is the most expensive building you can build. They know that Black and Hispanic incomes are half of white incomes in Montgomery County, so they know exactly who's not going to be able to live in downtown Bethesda. It's not like they don't know what they're doing. They are professionals, so they have to know what the facts are, and I know they know what the facts are. So we want to make sure that the planning boards have to zone for everybody. No more exclusive communities. Everybody gets a way in, and we've got these areas we're redeveloping in the centers, the activity centers, the business centers. There are a lot of centers that nothing's been built yet because of lack of incomes. Actually, if you ask the developers in White Flint, which Park and Planning did, say, why aren't you building? Because they've got thousands of units that are approved, and they said because the rents aren't high enough. So they're not looking for affordable. They want even higher rents than what they can get. We think we can move the needle if we start requiring that zoning include everybody in Montgomery County. I think residents would be comfortable with something that you have to zone for everybody here, and that's what we're going to push. And we are doing a lot. We're trying to put another $50 or $60 million into affordable housing. We've got partnerships with nonprofits. We're doing affordable housing. We've put money into buildings that we were able to buy. We have a partnership with Enterprise. We bought a building for $65 million. We flipped it to Enterprise about a month later so that they could take it over and redevelop it, and they only do affordable housing. So we're looking for opportunities for the county to act, work with partners, and make sure housing stays affordable in the county. So we understand it's a problem.
Mr. County Executive, just to let you know, we've got four questions online, correct? And 3 more questions out here. So, and it's 9:15.
Really?
Yeah. Time flies when you're having fun.
How about 9:30?
9:30?
Yeah.
Okay.
I'd like to ask that when you're talking about, sorry, Brian Robinson, I'm a father of a 4.5-year-old. I'd like to ask you when you're talking about transportation and funding transportation, we all use roads, but we also need more sidewalks. We need more bike lanes. It's an important element of allowing children to be independent, is to be able to walk around. 4.5-year-old can't walk to the store on her own, but when kids get older, they need to be able to get places. And in the current budget, there's money for road resurfacing. Fine, I drive around all the time, but there's not enough money for sidewalks. There's a sidewalk program. My understanding is that the money is currently devoted exclusively to things related to the purple, mostly related to the purple line. We need sidewalks in all kinds of different places in this county. We need bike lanes everywhere, along with the sidewalks. We need to prioritize pedestrian safety. I'm from the Bethesda area, but I wasn't able to make the other forum, so I appreciate you listening to me here. And if I could give a shout out for one project in particular, there's a Goldsboro Road project that has been in the works for over a decade. People are dying to have a sidewalk and a bike lane, especially a sidewalk.
I was going to say, the sidewalk,
Not everyone loves a bike lane, but everyone loves a sidewalk. And so we would love to see that in a budget. It's in the CIP. It keeps getting pushed back. Yep. But if you could put it in your budget, it would be appreciated.
So I'll go back to what I said in the beginning. If all I'm bonding is $280 million a year, I am bonding for less and less construction every year. So we may send over something to the council that pushes up. We got pushback and they weren't interested in going above where we were. We will try that again, because to your point, we will never get this stuff done if we keep spending less money every year. Even though it's the same dollars, they buy less. So I think it's important that we do that. The purple line stuff will come out of the budget at some point, because we're trying to get those things in place before the stations open. And maybe the stations will open in 2027. What is it, 10 years later, something like that? But when they come in, they need to have the sidewalks there. But that money will then continue to get repurposed into other things in the neighborhood. And I'll say the same thing when I said about what I want to do with the capital budget. This is the kind of thing we could make more room for if we can get the big projects and the transportation stuff out of the budget and into taxing districts.
Hey, so we have a very robust system in Montgomery County with DHS with the welfare system and programs in it. However, there's a lot of families in the system, in the unhoused system, in the motels that are not being treated properly. It's when you have a family who's trying to get back on their feet, they go to the Rockville Crisis Center, they check in, they have a caseworker. These caseworkers, they're not giving these families the proper attention and care that they need. When you want to get it, when these families want to get a job, it's okay, there's housing vouchers, there's daycare vouchers for families who needs daycare. It's a catch-22. You need daycare. You can't get a job unless you have daycare. You can't get daycare unless you have a job. So I'm working with a lot of advocates to change those policies. Are you willing to work with me and these community advocates to change the policies so it'll make it easier for these families to really get back on their feet?
Look, I've had the money to change the policies tomorrow. This is not about policies. This is about what are the available resources to provide independent housing for each other in daycare. We don't have nearly enough daycare. Leaving aside the folks in homeless shelters, I don't have enough daycare for the general population of Montgomery County. You have got one of the major problems is lack of women who've returned to the workforce for the lack of daycare, because it costs so much to be in daycare. For a lot of people, it's not worth getting a job if you're going to pay your money out to daycare again. So I appreciate the problem, as you stated it, but the problem is a lot bigger than that, and we don't have the money to do it all. I'm as liberal as you can get. Trust me.
Well,
anybody who knows me knows,
it's not a
Maryland,
money
am I as
thing.
liberal as you can get? Maryland say, yeah, I'm as liberal as you can get. But it's a money problem. I can't, where are you going to pay for the daycare?
It's not a money thing. These programs, they're really good programs. It's just the caseworkers, the supervisors. It's just the hula hoop fires that they have to jump through to get to these EBT programs. It needs to change. It's not working. We need to, if we want to fight poverty from the government side, from the community side, we have to work together. And we have the group that I'm working with, we have a series of policy changes, but we want to see if we can work with you to create these changes in these policies.
I'd be happy to take a look at what you got in terms of policy changes. I'd be happy to run it to staff and see if I can get some of them to sit down and talk with you. But if the policies involve staff involves money. And you're not going to escape the money conundrum I have, unless people can do more jobs than they're able to do right now. But I'm interested, if there are simple policy things that would make a difference, I'm interested. One of the things we're learning with AI, actually, is there are simpler ways to apply for things and evaluate things than people were doing before. And we might be able to free up staff time if staff doesn't spend so much time doing what they do right now. I mean, the best example, if I have a social worker and they interview a client, they don't have to write a report. So you're sitting during the meeting and you're taking notes. The meeting's over, you spend as much time or more writing a report. If we implement some of the AI tools that are out there, the meeting's recorded, the report is written instantly, the staff member doesn't have to do anything, and it frees up probably as much time as they spent on the interview that would let them do other things. So we're looking at ways to make our staff more productive, but we're going to invest in the tools that we think can do that.
Mr. County Executive, good evening, everyone. I'm actually behind the curtains back here. Look to your left. I mean, to your right. Okay. Anyways, since this is a virtual event, we do have a comment question from an online participant, and the individual says, I appreciate having to pay classroom personnel more, but the number of administrative positions in MCPS is out of control. Those folks are basically overhead, and it's not clear how they add value when so much of the curriculum is from the state. The question is about cutting costly administrative positions in MCPS.
So I don't control the MCPS budget, and I'm not allowed to change the MCPS budget at that level. That MCPS submits their budget to us. We are under the state law that requires us to spend last year's money plus more, so we're kind of constrained. But the superintendent is well aware that within the choices he has to make, if he doesn't find savings, the county does not have an unlimited amount of money to do new things. And so I think the superintendent's looking pretty hard about where they're spending money and what the structure of the organization is, because the truth is any money he can free up organizationally could be put back into the classroom. They're way down on teachers. I've had people telling me that there are high school classes that are over 30, well over 30, middle school classes over 30. They're not supposed to be this high. So I'm very interested in finding out what they can do, and we're going to work with them because we think working together, and we've got some expertise we might be able to help them with, we might be able to help them get to a more efficient place.
We have one last question, Mr. County Executive.
I'm the last question? Wow. So my name is Makita Richardson. I'm a resident here in Germantown, also a small business owner, as well as a volunteer for Local Pride, Inc., in which we provide services for our LGBTQ plus community. Worked with you on a couple of those initiatives. Thank you very much. We hope we can count on the continued support for the next fiscal year. One of my other questions to you is, you brought up Fairfax County, which I have done a lot of research on Fairfax County and the work that they do there. They've done a very comprehensive equity plan, which is driven a lot by root cause analysis and their data. And that data allows them to elevate right, the intersectionality needs of the community in a way in which they can make connections to ensure that resources are allocated to not only address challenges, but address challenges at an overlapping level. So my question to you is, does Montgomery County have a comprehensive equity plan? Are there plans in an effort to do that to ensure that we're addressing the challenges from a comprehensive level, but also through the lens of equity and intersectionality?
Looking at things through those lenses, how much we are able to do is probably not as much as we would like. I mean, we're still trying to set up the first, second probably, a center for people. We're trying to make it have more robust presence in the community. But we have made progress on the medical area and getting access to health care to people. So I think, I wouldn't say it's everything that it can be, but we work pretty closely with the community, and we're trying to add the pieces that we're being asked to add. And, they know better than we do what those pieces are. I'm not going to tell you what you need. I should not do that.
Those that are most proximate to the challenges, often have the best solutions for them. And so I just wondered if we're looking at Fairfax County and the ways in which they have developed out their allocation of resources, why businesses are so interested in going there even though they're paying more taxes, Are we planning in an effort to make sure that the resources that we have, are being allocated? I saw a lot of nonprofit organizations here in the audience today, some in which I, as a resident of this county for over 18 years, I never even knew existed. And so I just wonder if there's ways in which we can build out infrastructure within the county in an effort to address these complex systems from a more equitable and intersectionality lens.
So, I've got groups in HHS that work on a lot of problems, and a lot of them involve the nonprofit community, the community leaders in general, with our people working on it. We rely so heavily on nonprofits to do this work, because there are more of them. Obviously, they're less expensive to operate, and so we use them a lot. So it's not unusual, but I'd be interested. If the Fairfax County plan is online.
Oh my goodness, it is online. Then
I'll
tell you.
I'll grab it down and pass it around to people to look at.
Yeah, most definitely. And if you're in search and looking for collaborating with an equity officer, I do that work. So.
Okay.
All right.
Thank you.
You're welcome. Thank you.
Is that it?
That is it.
I think that's it.
Thank you all.
Before you leave, thank you very much for attending tonight. Just a couple of things. One, today is the last day of our online community survey. There's some of these flyers by the door. Just hit the QR code and you can fill that out. In addition to that, as indicated at the beginning, there's a survey about tonight on the card that has the county executive.
And more importantly, that we help people all the way through the process. It's what Fabric Health does.
The work is actually happening the way that Joanne is doing it, through the rows of the laundry, introducing himself.